after I had been props making, first at the New Zealand Ballet Company and then at the ABC in Melbourne. I suddenly realised I was actually using most of the materials I needed to know about. So I had foam latex, I knew how to make moulds, and I suddenly realised I could have another go at it. The first part, and the most important, is the basic idea or story that you've got, and from that you'll have little sets and characters. So in this case, every character has to be made as a puppet that you can animate. Usually they start as a plasticine sculpture, much like this one, who's an unfinished creature. In this case, he's a full body one. This is a mould which is for a body which doesn't have a head, because they're going to be interchangeable in different ones. And so this was built over a plasticine sculpture, much as this is. Once you've got that mould made, you'd open it up, you pull all your plasticine out, so you've got this empty space. Then you have to make an armature that you can animate with. If you've got the budget and the time, you might use ball and socket joints. If you're doing it cheap or in a hurry, you can use armature wire, which is an aluminium wire which has been annealed, so it's kind of soft and dead. It doesn't spring very much. Some characters, if they're a human character with clothing on, like this fellow here, doesn't need to have his whole body sculpted. He's not going to strip off in this particular film. So he's got a body that's been built up over the wire with this sort of urethane foam that you'd get from Clark Rubber or a sewing sort of shop. Cut with scissors, you get a rough shape. It's enough to make the clothing stay where it should be. Only his hands and his head have to be worried about. They're built up with liquid latex straight on the wire. Just you add a little bit, let it dry, add a little bit more, a little dot where you want the knuckles to be, another coat all over it, and eventually you've got little hands. Because they have the wire inside, they can be animated to do anything, any gesture he needs to do. His head, in this case, is done with silicone rubber. I think I can still pull it off. It is a longer lasting material compared to latex, which, is being a natural material, will start to rot, and after 2 or 3 years it's not so much good anymore. This stuff lasts forever. It's still quite flexible. A little bit of wire in his jaw which holds that mouth position, so he can open and close his mouth. Eyeballs are made from little white beads, and they can rotate in the sockets so that he can look in different directions. And in his case, it's a plaster mold, so his face has come out of a mold exactly like that. These are the little beads which are place fillers where the eyeballs are going to go. So it hasn't been painted up. There's a little bit of wire to keep it in place so it doesn't head off in different directions when you put the rubber in. The armature has a little wooden block and a bit of wire in the neck usually, which is coming out. So once you've filled that and it's set and you take it out, you've got a head which needs trimming and painting. And then that can be put into this generic body which is designed to take more than one head, so I get more use out of it. And so once you've got your characters, then you've got a world to put them in, especially if they're not completely realistic. They don't even look in, they actually look out of place if you use real world backgrounds. So they tend to have their own world, which is, in my case, fairly close to realistic, not as stylized as Tim Burton or Adam Elliott film, but still not quite like a real shot. Puppet film has kind of had a bit of a revival, and there's been, I suppose, more feature films done that way than we had seen in the sort of 30 or 40 years before that. And so even though it's suddenly given it a hard time, there's so many tools which make what used to be really difficult easy, and pretty much anyone can do it on their own home computer.